B'Rishus D'Mardasra, we're continuing our Dirshu B'Halacha. Today we're holding on Kuf Ayin Tes Amid Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom, Siman Shin Lamed Hey, Seif Beis. So we're continuing discussing the halachas of what happens if somebody has a barrel of wine. Doesn't have to be wine, could be something else as well, but he has a barrel and the barrel broke on Shabbos, the contents are leaking out. He wants to be able to save the contents. What is he allowed to do? What is he not allowed to do? Now fasten your seatbelts because we're going to have some complicated pieces tonight. Till now we've said so far, very similar to what we had in Shin Lamed Daled, that the barrel broke, the zigzera, we're afraid the person is going to become agitated, he's going to be bahul, he's going to be panicky, and we're afraid if we let him save too much, specifically, he may come to go bring lots of kalim, lots of different kalim to save the contents of the barrel, and he might transport those kalim in Rishus Harabim and be over on Hoitzah. There's also a possibility that besides the Hoitzah of the kalim, maybe he'll be over other malachas as well. So we restrict this fellow and we tell him that he's only allowed to save Mazain Shalosh Su'udais. He's only allowed to save from the contents of the barrel what he needs for 3 Su'udais. But for those 3 Su'udais, he's allowed to save whatever he needs, even if he's going to use multiple kalim to save that stuff. If he's using 1 keli, then he could even save for 100 Su'udais. If he's using 1 keli, we don't make gzeira of bahul. We only make the gzeira if he's using multiple kalim. But up to Mazan Gimel Su'udais, he can use as many kalim as he wants. Another pertinent fact that we had yesterday that we should remember for today is we had the Ramah in Seif Aleph that said that this whole gzeira only applies if the barrel is broken. If the barrel is broken and the stuff is coming out in a hurry, then we have this gzeira of bahul. We have this gzeira that he might become panicky and he might be over isurei daraisa. But if the barrel has a crack and it's leaking out, like the Ramah said, tip, tip, it's dripping out, then the person's not going to become panicky. So in that case, the Ramah said, we're not worried. Then mutar lahatzil b'kalim. The Ramah said he could even use a lot of kalim and he could even save more than mazin gimel su'udais. Now let's pick up at Seif Beis. 2 lines from the bottom. Says the Mechaber, in nishbara chavis barosh gagoy. We have to remember that in those days, most of the rooftops were flat and the rooftops were used as storage areas. So let's say a person had a barrel on top of his roof and now it broke. Mevi kli, he could bring a keli, umeniach tachteha, and he could put that keli, the words mean, underneath the keli that's broken. He could put a keli to go catch the wine. What exactly does this mean underneath? So variably, some people say it means that the broken keli is on the roof, the contents of the broken chavis are coming out, and now it's flowing over the side of the roof. So you could put a keli down in the courtyard, down in the chutzner, you could put a keli to catch what's coming out, or let's say the chavis is on the roof and it's broken near the top, you could put a keli next to it underneath the hole to catch the contents. Ubelvad, however, shalayavi kli acher v'yiklait, you should not bring a second keli, which you're going to position to catch the contents of the barrel. As they flow out of the barrel, you want to put a keli here to catch it in midair. So you already put 1 keli somewhere, either on the ground, in the chutzner, or on the rooftop next to the keli. You position 1 keli that's catching a certain amount of the contents. Now you want to position another keli somewhere so that it should catch also additionally from the flow. I guess when you have a broken barrel, it's not a spigot. You don't have the contents coming out in a nice, even, uniform flow going down to one spot. You could have stuff coming out all over. So you put 1 keli to save. Now you can't go ahead and put another keli to catch some of the flow in midair. Kliyachav yiklait l'kabel min kiluach ba'avir l'achar sheyerid min agag while it's coming off the roof. V'loyavi kliyacher, and then you shouldn't bring another keli v'yitzaref oisay l'rosh hagag. So the Mechaber tells us here, there are 2 things we don't want you to do. You could put a keli down to go catch the contents. But what we don't want you to do is, we don't want you to put another keli somewhere where the contents of the barrel are going to go on the roof, they're going to flow off the roof, and let's say you're going to position a keli on the second floor at a window. So it's going to catch the flow on the way down. Then you want to take another keli, let's say this is the roof. It's flowing off the roof. You want to somehow attach a keli to the roof on the edge. So this keli is going to catch it right off the edge of the roof. The keli on the second floor is going to catch the stuff that spills over, and the keli on the ground is going to catch whatever escapes. The first two kelim is going to be caught by the keli on the ground. Says the Mechaber, you cannot do this. You should not do this. And I'm not going to explain why for this minute. We're going to go down into the Chavetz Chaim in the Mishnah Berurah, and we're going to see why, and we're going to see a machlokes achrayim exactly why not. You know what? Let's go down to the Mishnah Berurah right now. Well, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. That's probably the root of it, but we have an interesting machlokes here. Says the Mishnah Berurah on Kuf Ayin Tes Amud Aleph in Ois Kat Neches, Mevi Kli, you could bring a keli. Now, the Mishnah Berurah just points out, if you're bringing one keli and you're putting it down somewhere to catch the contents of the barrel, the kevachu kli echad, when you're dealing with one keli, afilu machzik meya seudais matzel. If you're using one keli, you're allowed to save all of the contents of the barrel. Because remember, using one keli, you could save even enough for 100 sudais. So as long as you're using one keli, you can save whatever you want. But the Mechaber said, ubelvad, you can't do this other business. You can't have one keli catching the stuff in midair and one keli catching the stuff from the edge of the roof. Says the Mishnah Berurah, ubelvad shelo yavi. What's the problem with this? Since now you're going to look for other kelim, we're afraid you're going to forget it Shabbos. And you're going to bring them through Rishos Harabim. So this, so far, is the same exact gzera that we made in Seif Aleph. We said in Seif Aleph, your barrel broke. You cannot use multiple kelim to save more than Mazin Gimel Sudais. So far, that's the same exact thing we have here. You cannot use multiple kelim. You could use one keli on the ground to catch the contents of the barrel. You want to use one keli on the ground, one keli on the edge of the roof, one keli on the second floor. You can't do that. Why can't you do it? Because it's multiple kelim. And if it's multiple kelim, you're limited to Mazin Gimel Sudais. So you can't save more than Mazin Gimel Sudais. V'chol zeh, turn the page, continues the Mishnah Berurah, v'chol zeh ma'iri b'yosim mishalosh sudais. This is only talking about saving more than Gimel Sudais. Avo b'shalosh sudais, yakal ha'atzel afilu b'kelim harbe, afilu likleitu l'tzaref. You want to do this using multiple kelim, and you want to use the one on the second floor and the one on the edge of the roof, and you want to do it to save up to Mazin Gimel Sudais, no problem. There's no gzera of bowl if you're using multiple kelim, if you're saving less than Gimel Sudais.
I'm just curious, what is the original malaka we're committing by saving the spillage?
You're not. You're not doing any malacha by saving the spillage. The whole problem of saving the spillage is this gzera. We're making a gzera that we're afraid if we allow you to busy yourself with going ahead and chasing a lot of kelim to go save the spillage, you might come to forget that it's Shabbos in your panic, and you might, I need another keli, I need another keli, I need another keli, and you might be over on Hitzah. You might bring kelim through Rishos Harabim. No malach at all. No malach at all. So, okay. Ube'emes, on the second line in the Mishnah Berurah, Ube'emes, b'yoysa mishalosh seudais, asa lahatza b'kli acher, af b'li klita v'tziruf. V'chanal b'Seif Aleph. Says the Mishnah Berurah, this whole thing that the Mechaber is saying about kilot catching, the keli on the second floor, and tziruf, the keli on the edge of the roof, it really not negated anything. We really had this whole halacha in Seif Aleph. In Seif Aleph, we said, the barrel broke. You're using multiple kelim to save the contents of the barrel, you're limited to Mazin Gimel Sudais. You're using one keli, you can save as much as you want. You can even save 100 sudais. Now comes the Mechaber, he says, you had a barrel, it was the top of the roof, it broke. You want to use one keli? Gesundheit, use one keli. But you know what you shouldn't do? You shouldn't do kilut and sirif. You shouldn't set up a keli on the second floor and a keli on the roof. Says the Mishnah Berurah, well, yeah, if you want to do that, and you want to save Mazin Gimel Sudais, That there's nothing wrong with. You want to save more than Mazin Gimel Sudais? Well, that you're not allowed to do because it's multiple Kalim. The fact that it's Kilot and Siruf, nothing to do with anything. Continues the Mishnah Berurah. So why did the Mechaber bring down this case of Kilot and Siruf? Elo the Orcha de Bilsa Nakat, the Kain Derek Lahatzel Bekilot V'Siruf, Kain Kasab B'Sefer Taisur Shabbos. Sefer Taisur Shabbos explains this Mechaber and says the only reason this is here is because it's Orcha de Bilsa Nakat. Sounds like a Pella. You're shaking your head. Sounds like a Pella. What is this for? What is it for? And the truth is that this Kilot and Siruf, the Mechaber didn't make this up. The Mechaber took this directly from a Brisa in Shabbos. This case of the Chavis on Rosh Hagag and this Isser of Kilot and Siruf is in a Brisa in Shabbos. So what's it about? One thing I could say is perhaps, like Yankel alluded to, maybe there's an extra chiddush over here that we don't want the guy to get involved in doing a whole contraption because it'll be easier for him to forget that it's Shabbos. So we might have thought that once you're going ahead and making a whole contraption, we're going to aser even Mazon Gimel Seudas. Kamash Malon, no. Gimel Seudas you could save. Problem is that the Mechaber doesn't say that. The Mechaber doesn't say this whole differentiation between Mazon Gimel Seudas and not is in the Mishnah Berurah. The Mechaber didn't say it. If that was the Iker Chiddush, the Mechaber should have said it. Now, the Mishnah Berurah brings down another pshat. U'b'sefer Pri Megadim is chaylik on the Taisur Shabbos. B'sefer Pri Megadim mitzadid lahachmer b'klita v'tziruf afilu ad shalish seudos. The Pri Megadim looks at this Mechaber and says, no, there's got to be something more at play over here. So says the Pri Megadim, no, tziruf and kilot, setting up the keli on the second floor and setting up the keli on the edge of the roof is taka aser, even to save Mazon Gimel Seudos. And Pashtus, the reason is, like Yankel said, because you're setting up a whole contraption, and that's going to mess you over. You're going to get involved, you're going to panic, you're going to forget it Shabbos. Because even though he said in Sif Aleph, because even though in Sif Aleph we said that even if you're using multiple kalim, you could save up to Mazon Gimel Seudos, Hainu Kishehei Munachem Ala Aretz. That's only when you took multiple kalim and you simply put them on the ground. Aval yidei klita v'tziruf. But once you're starting to build ganze contraptions over here to go save your stuff, asur b'chol gavnei kol shehu yoser mikli echad. Now you're not allowed to save anything. You're setting up contraptions using more than one keli, then you're not allowed to say anything, save anything. That's how the Pri Megadim learns. Now, I've heard from Paiskim a klal that psak halacha, we don't see psak often, not always. We don't always see psak halacha in the pnim, in the Mishnah Berurah over here. The Chavetz Chaim did not always give us psak halacha. Like in a case over here, he brings down two pshatim. We have a Taisur Shabbos who says, Sirif and Kilot, no problem saving Mazon Gimel Seudos. We have a Pri Megadim, Sirif and Kilot, you can't even save Mazon Gimel Seudos. Chavetz Chaim didn't give me a psak. Where do you find the psak? You find the psak in the Sharat Tzion on the bottom. So if you look at the Sharat Tzion, Ois Vav, Sharat Tzion, Sif Bev, Ois Vav, it's the first line of the Sharat Tzion, says the Chavetz Chaim, V'hevi raya lozeh midivrei Rambam, he says that the Pri Megadim brings a raya to his pshat from the Rambam. Avol midivrei Rashi, but from Rashi in Masechta Shabbos, mashma la nias daiti, it's mashma to me, the daitoi ka Tosefes Shabbos, that Rashi held like the Tosefes Shabbos, the griyusa, the likut, v'tzirafu bishum da'idei kelim arbe, that the only point of tzirif and kilot is that you happen to be using multiple kelim. But the fact that it's tzirif and kilot is taken not negeya. Ulafizeh mutar al kol panim ad shalosh seudos. And therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, from Rashi, it seems very clear, the lashon of Rashi over there is, why is tzirif and kilot a problem? Mitoich shehu mechazer al kelim harbe yishkach v'yavi. Because since he's looking for a lot of kelim, he's going to forget it Shabbos, and he's going to bring kelim through Rosh Hashanah. So it's very clear from Rashi in Shabbos that Rashi held that siruf and kilut is not an independent problem of itself. That's kilut is when you put the keli, let's say, on the second floor window to catch the wine as it's flowing down in midair, and siruf is attaching a keli to the edge of the roof. So as it's flowing off the roof, some will get stuck in the keli. So says Rashi in Shabbos, the Brisa is not bothered by the fact that you're doing siruf and kilut. The Brisa is not bothered by how you're using the kelim. The Brisa is only bothered that you're using multiple kelim. Okay, so using multiple kelim, you're only allowed to save Mazik Gimel Sudas. But Mazik Gimel Sudas you're allowed to save. So Rashi is very much mashma like the Tosefes Shabbos. It seems that the Chavetz Chaim is paskening like the Tosefes Shabbos. You're still left with a shtickle kasha. According to the Tosefes Shabbos, it's a little bit hard to figure out exactly what the chiddush of Sif Beis until this point was.
You see from the Mechaber, the matzil, the kli echad, matzil afilu kolet o mitzvah. That's what he's saying.
Where are you?
The end of the base, Mechaber. The matzil, the kli echad.
You give a matzah b'kli echad matzah afilu kolet o mitzvah. Yeah.
So I think what the Mechaber is saying is like this. He's not worried about you going out and, to Rosh Hashanah if you have a lot of keli. That's not what he's worried about. He's worried about making a contraption. He thinks if you have more than one keli, that's already a contraption.
If you have more than one keli, as kilut tziruf, it's not on the ground. If you have more than one keli.
It's already a contraption.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's what he's saying.
I hear you, and I think that's the way the Pri Megadim is learning. I think that's the way the Pri Megadim is learning.
It's already finished.
Right, that's the way the Pri Megadim is learning in Shulchan Aruch.
So,
But the Tosefes Shabbos is not learning that way.
no, but I'm saying that even if you want to learn the other way,
Yeah.
okay, so let's say you could say one or you could say three, you could say for when you do for 3 seudos, it's not that many still. It still limits it. Doesn't mean that you usually you're going to use an infinite number of.
So what do you want to do? You want to walk in the middle.
Yeah,
You want to walk in the middle.
Because even if you do for shalosh seudos, you're not going to be using.
I hear you. You're trying to make a compromise between Tosefes Shabbos and the Pri Megadim. I hear you.
That's the problem.
Okay. The Mechaber continued near the end of the top line. If you're saving with one keli, then you can do whatever you want. I don't care how you use one keli. Says the Mishnah Berurah, he's cutting yod then you'd be allowed to save even more than Mazik Gimel Sudais. They came to La'itiru Kia Bechad Kli, because since you're only using one keli, Zachar Hushu Shabbos, he'll remember that it's Shabbos. Okay. Siv Gimel. Nizdamnu loy archim. Let's say the keli broke, your chavis broke, and you're losing your wine. So you're only allowed to save, right now you're only allowed to save Mazik Gimel Sudais if you're using multiple kelim. If you're using one keli, you can save whatever you want. But let's say you're using multiple kelim. Now, nizdamnu loy archim. Now, guests came. So now suddenly you need more wine, because you have guests coming. So then, says the Mechaber, maybe kli echad v'kailit, kli echad v'yitzaref. Now, you could use multiple kelim, and I don't care how you do it. You could do kilut, you could do tziruf, doesn't matter. Now you have archim, you need more wine, I'm giving you a heter. V'lo yiklait v'yitzaref v'achar kach yazmin ha'archim. However, you cannot go ahead, set up your contraption, do kilut v'tziruf, multiple kelim, to go save your wine, and then go ahead and invite guests to be matir, the davar aser that you already did. That you can't do. Now it's interesting, the Mechaber leaves out over here the last words of the Brisa in Shabbos. The last words of the Brisa in Shabbos is, Ella Yasmin v'achakach yaklit. What you should do is, you should invite them, and then you should set up your kelim. Now the only reason I point that out is because without seeing the Brisa in Masechta Shabbos, you might have a question. The Mechaber says, Nizdamnu lo. If guests happen to come, then we're going to give you a heter to use multiple kelim and save more wine. How about if guests didn't happen to come? How about if I go ahead and I invite guests? Is that a problem? Are you allowed to do that? The answer is yes, because it's beferish in the Bryce and Shabbos, yes. But the Mechaber left those words out. So, however, continues the Mechaber, however, you can't be a wise guy, and let's say your barrel broke at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and everybody already finished their Shabbos Suda. But you want to go ahead and you want to save all your wine. So you run out to your neighbor and say, I need a guest. Come on over. Meantime, you know that the guest ate already. He already had his Suda. He's not drinking wine. So you want to use a harama, you want to use a level of trickery, you want to say, I have the guests, so the guests should be mad to me to save the wine. No. That you can't do. Hagal says the Ramah.
What does eating have to do with drinking?
Well, you're serving a meal.
Drink afterwards, they used to have I got some
Yes, I assume he means over here, you can't, you're right. But we said if they drink wine all day, then in Chirami, then you could save wine for the whole day. We're talking about that. What he means that you can't be marim is that now you're inviting guests who you know are not going to drink wine.
He says le'echol, he doesn't say.
Yeah, because he said they ate the suda already, so they're not. Umiyu says the Rama, im avar va'asa. If you are over and you did go ahead and save your wine, shekalat v'achakach zimen archim. You saved your wine and now you invited guests. Mutter, we're going to let you get away with it, b'di'evet. Zok the Mishnah Berurah and Ice Cotton Yod Aleph. V'lo ya'arim ayin b'magen Avram shekasav d'ladasa Rambam mutter laha'arim b'zel l'chatchila. Magen Avram brings down the Rambam who says you could make this ha'arama even l'chatchila. For the fact that the Mishnah Berurah brings this down, it's a shtickle mashma that he paskins like that Rambam. Ice Cotton Yud Beis v'achakach zimen archim. Mashma, the Ramah said, if you were over and you went there and you saved the wine, and now you invited guests, the wine is mutter. Says the Mishnah Berurah, mashma de'im lo zimein. The implication is, if you saved the wine and you did not invite guests, af di'evet aser. Now the wine is aser even b'di'evet. V'hainu rak ad motzei Shabbos miyad. But the Mishnah Berurah says the wine would only be aser until the end of Shabbos. We would aser the wine that you saved illicitly, we would aser it for Shabbos. But right away when Motzei Shabbos it becomes mutter. And if you saved the wine b'shoigeg, what does that mean b'shoigeg? Sheshagag b'din, you forgot the din, you knew you learned Siman Shin Lamed Hey, but you forgot what was mutter and what was aser, so you were a shoigeg. Oy sheshachach shu Shabbos, or pashut you forgot that it was Shabbos. Mutter lehonis b'zeaf b'Shabbos. Then you'd be allowed to use the wine even on Shabbos. Afilu loy, even you yourself. V'chol shekein la'acherim, certainly others. Okay, now we come to a very interesting sif. Now, before we get into sif Daled, there are just a short hakdama that I want to give. We had in Siman Shin Chaf, the Shulchan Aruch spoke about the Isser of Schita. Now we mentioned Schita yesterday. Schita, squeezing something out of something else, is a tolda of dash. It's a type of mefarik. You're extracting something from the thing that it's absorbed into. So schita, depending on exactly how you do it, is potentially an issa daraisa. You want to take a grape and you want to squeeze wine out of a grape, that's an issa daraisa. You're not allowed to squeeze the juice out of a grape on Shabbos. The Shulchan Aruch says in Shin Chaf, in Sif Aleph, what happens if you have a bunch of grapes sitting in a keli, and wine oozes out, juice oozes out of the grapes on Shabbos. Says the Shulchan Aruch that juice that oozes out of the grapes on Shabbos is aser. It's muktzah, it's aser, you're not allowed to drink it on Shabbos. What? No, not nolid. The reason it's aser is because of gzeira. The gzeira is, if we're going to allow you to drink that grape juice on Shabbos, shema yavai lischait l'chatchila. You might come to now go ahead, oh, delicious grape juice, let me have some more. So you might come now to squeeze the grapes. So that juice is aser because of gzeira. Now, once that juice is aser, that juice is muktzah. Okay. There's another problem on Shabbos. There's something called being mavatal a kli mehechonoi. If you have a keli A keli is perfectly mutter on Shabbos. It's not muktzah. You have a bowl, a pot. It's not muktzah. But if you put something in the bowl, which is muktzah, you now make the bowl muktzah. By making the bowl muktzah on Shabbos, you are mevatel a keli mehechanoi. You nullified a keli from being mechin, from being prepared for use on Shabbos. So you took a keli that you were allowed to use on Shabbos, and you made it aser. Why is that a problem? So that's a machlokes achrayim. Why that's a problem? One reason it's possibly a problem, some achrayim want to say it's like soiser. It's like you broke the keli. You had a keli that was usable, you made it unusable. By making it unusable, you broke it.
Why would it be like most things that it doesn't retain the status before Shabbos came in?
Oh, why you're asking is if it wasn't muktzah ben ishmashus, why is it muktzah now? That's a very interesting question, but it's not a sugya for here. It's a good question. Yeah.
But why isn't the calculus not button?
But it's not. But you weren't macalculate. You weren't really macalculate. It's not broken. In Lundus was saying it's broken, but it's not broken. So that's one tam that they say. The other tam for bittul kli meichanoi.
If you go to the mikveh in the Sakamana.
Yeah, it's true. The other pshat that they say for bittul kli meichanoi, for the iser, one is stira, and the other one is. What's the other one? One is stira. I'm forgetting. I'm not remembering offhand what the other one is. But there's machlokes akrayim why it's us. But in any case, there's a problem. Just the concept of bittul kli meichanoi. The last concept. There's something called a graf shel rei. Something that's disgusting, something that's repulsive, even though it in of itself, it should be muktzah. Let's say somebody is sick on Shabbos. He vomits on Shabbos. So the mess is muktzah. There's no purpose on Shabbos. There's no possible use. So it's muktzah. Yet you're allowed to clean it up and you're allowed to remove it. Why are you allowed to remove it? Because it's called a graf shel rei. Literally, graf shel rei means a chamber of excrement. So you have that's something that's repulsive that you're not mechuyev to have next to you on Shabbos. You have something repulsive next to your dining room table. You know what?
What's a chamber?
What?
A chamber of excellence.
Oh, I said chamber. It's a pot. Why did I say chamber? I misspoke. I'm sorry. A pot. It's a graf shel rei. Why did I say chamber? Because a chamber pot probably isn't that what they call a chamber pot would be like what? Yeah. A chamber pot is what they called like the little portable toilets that we have.
Means to rake. So when you rake it, it's like a pile of dirt.
That's not what graf. I don't think that's what graf means here. It means a keli. So you're allowed to remove something that's repulsive.
It has the same status as if you took, how do you call it, feces or anything, and you pile it together. It's a pile of.
So you're allowed to remove it on Shabbos. Now let's jump into Sif Daled. Im Yosef Tirash Migiga Shalanavim Shadayin Lo Nidruchu. Let's say you had a keli, a gigis is some kind of a keli, a vessel, that has grapes in it, Shadayin Lo Nidruchu, but you did not begin to press these grapes yet. So these grapes are whole. Shenimtza, but now wine came out. Im Yosef Tirash, wine oozed out, Migiga Shalanavim, from a keli of grapes, Sha'adayin lo nidruchu, that were not yet pressed. Shenimtza oisai adelef einoi roi. That juice that oozed out is not roi for use on Shabbos. It's muktzah, because that's what we said. That juice is also because of the gzeira of schita. So that juice is muktzah. Sharei hamashkin shezavu asurim. Like we said in Shulchaf, this mashkin that oozed out is also, it's muktzah. Ve'einoi rashoy losum kli tachtav. So, you have a keli. Wine is oozing out. The wine that's oozing out is now overflowing. It's coming out of the keli. Now, this wine is all muktzah. You can't take a keli and put a keli there to catch this oozing wine that's coming out, because by doing so, you're being mevatel kli mehechanoi. The juice is muktzah. You're taking a keli which is not muktzah. You're positioning it to catch a muktzah juice. You can't do that because you're being mevatel kli mehechanai. So how could you save the juice? Says the Mechaber, Ketzad Yaseh, what should you do? Yaniach sham, pardon my voice. Yaniach sham mitasai oishel chanai. You should put either your bed or your table next to this barrel. Va'oz yiyah oisai adelef lefanav graf sharei. Now, the overflowing juices have a din of a graf sharei. Why? Because what's going to happen? You have a barrel, and wine is oozing out, and it's overflowing. If you allow the overflowing wine to go on the floor, it's going to make a big mess, especially if you're talking about a dirt floor. It's going to create mud. That's a graf. I'm not mechuyev to have a graf sharei. So says the Mechaber, the overflowing juice has a din of a graf sharei. The yuchal la'aniach sham keli lekabel adelef kidei shalayase sham tit. And you're allowed to position a keli to catch the flow of the overflowing juice so that it should not make mud and it should not make a mess. So now, we have keli number one. Keli number one is the keli that is the grapes that are oozing juice. The juice is flowing out of the keli. The juice has a din of a graf sharei, because if we allow it to hit the floor, it's going to make a mess. So I could take keli number two, and I can position keli number two to catch the overflow so that it should not make tit. Now, ukishi yismalei keli, when keli number two gets filled up, you're allowed to empty it. Why are you allowed to empty it? Because if you don't empty it, it's going to overflow and it's going to make a graf sharei. So you're allowed to take keli number two and you're allowed to empty it. Where should you empty it? Lo yizrikenu b'keli acher. You can't go ahead and pour it into keli number three, because if you pour it into keli number three, you're going to be mevatel keli number three me'echanai. Because now the juice that you're putting into keli number three is muktzah. Because keli number three is not going to overflow. Keli number three is not catching the flow from keli number one. Keli number three, you're filling up. So you're going to fill it up, and you're not going to let it overflow. That juice is muktzah, because it's juice that oozed out from grapes on Shabbos. It's not a graf sharei, because it's not going to overflow. So you can't pour it into keli number three, because by pouring it into keli number three, you're being mevatel kli me'echanai. Ella, what she did do? Marikai b'say chagigis shezavu amashkin mimena. Pour it back into keli number one. Shehi mivutelas me'echanai, because keli number one, you're not being mevatel kli me'echanai. Keli number one is already muktzah, because the grapes oozed out the juice into keli number one. So keli number one is already muktzah. It's himavutelas me'echana al yedei mashkin sheba mishum mashkin shezavu. Keli number one is already muktzah. So by pouring it back into keli number one, you're not being mevatel kli me'echanai. Before you ask questions, let us get this straight. Keli number one has the oozing grapes. The juice that's oozing out is muktzah. If you set up keli number two is going to catch it. It's going to become muktzah. That's mevatel kli me'echanai that you're not allowed to do. What? We're going to allow you to do it because the delef, the juice, is a graf sharei. So we're going to let you set up keli number two, right? You're going to set up keli number two. Now that's going to overflow. You can't pour it into keli number three, because that you would be doing bittul kli me'echanai at keli number three. So you pour it back into keli number one, and this is how you get away with saving your wine. Now, what do you want to ask?
I just want to know, why do you want to get rid of empty clean number two? Why do you want to empty it?
Because it's going to overflow.
And then what is it going to do? What is it going to do?
It's going to go on the ground.
And what is it going to do?
It's going to make a graph. Sharei is going to make dirt.
So just like you were allowed to take the second one in order to prevent the...
So you want to know if you could set up another one.
So now the second one is making a graf sharei.
Right, so you want to know if you can, you want to know, can I set up another keli and so the truth is...
There's a graf sharei, the same thing like number two. Number two you set up because you wanted to prevent a graf sharei. Number three you set up because you're going to get another graf sharei.
I would imagine the answer is, one second. One second.
You're not solving any problems, you're running a circle.
It's not,
Bringing it
it's
back
not,
in and coming back
it's
out.
not, it's not overflowing, it has a hole in the middle.
No, I'll tell you what the answer. Yankel, the answer to your question, I believe that the answer to your question is that we would rather you take Keli number 2
Okay, so.
and pour
You wanna
and pour it
minimize-
back.
You wanna minimize.
Right, so you shouldn't create another Keli problem.
All right.
That's probably the answer. What were you asking?
Number one is overflowing and then number
It's
two.
not overflowing.
And number two is full and now overflowing.
Well, no, number 1 is leaking.
It's leaking.
Number 1 is leaking.
How are you gonna fill it past the leak?
You're right. It'll be a Galgal Chayzer.
You're gonna start with the number.
It'll be a Galgal Chayzer.
You're gonna start with number 2 again.
Yeah.
You're gonna use number 2 again.
Yeah.
He's busy.
All right, I want to keep going because I want to get to the end of today's. All right, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Now I spoke out, I think, most of the Mishnah Berurah, but there's yet another chiddush that's going to come up here. Ois kat yud gimel im Yosef tiresh begigas umayri shag. Oh, here comes the Mishnah Berurah with another point that we didn't even bring up in this whole conversation. Umayri shagigas loy nistak legamri. We must be talking about where Keli number 1 is not mamish broken. Ela ovid tip tip. It's only cracked and leaking slightly. Shadayin eino bohol. So there's no gzera here of bohol. Ukedalael b'haga. Ulakach, and therefore, Eloi mishum bittul kli mehechanoi. If not for this new problem that we're bringing up of bittul kli mehechanoi, hayamuta lahasib kli taktav lahatzil. If not for this problem, you would be allowed to put a keli there to catch the leaking juices. The nishbar lagamri, because the Mishnah Berurah says, if we're talking about where keli number 1 is mamish busted, and it's not leaking slowly, it's mamish, the juices are mamish flowing out, even if you didn't have the problem of bittul kli mehechanoi, gam kein haya asal asim kli taktav. You still wouldn't be allowed to put a keli there to catch the juice. Why not? No, Yankel, why not?
Goes in barrel.
What? So what? So what's the problem?
He's gonna bring more, or whatever.
There's a Mazin Gimel Sudas. Why can't you save Mazin Gimel Sudas? The answer is that you're not allowed to even save Mazin Gimel Sudas. You know why? Because it's muktzah. You're only allowed to save Mazin Gimel Sudas if you can use it. Over here, you can't use the juice. The juice is muktzah. So if the barrel that we're talking about is mamish busted, then forget bittul kli mehechanoi. You can't put a keli there to catch the juice anyway, because if you can't use the juice, you're not allowed to save anything, not even Mazal Gimel Sudas, because of the gzeira of bohol. The gzeira of bohol really won't let you save anything. We let you save Mazal Gimel Sudas. We give you a heter to save Mazal Gimel Sudas. But if you can't use the juice, you can't even save Mazal Gimel Sudas. Okay, you're dollar. Yeah.
He's using the right word. He's using the yashu. He doesn't have to explain to her that it's nizdak and it's not.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
'Cause
you said
You're right, but the Mishnah Berurah is pointing it out.
he's using the right
I hear
word,
you.
so that means it's not coming out.
I got you down. Chadai lo nidrachu. The Mechaber said that we're talking about grapes that were not yet crushed. The nidrachu, because if you had already crushed the grapes somewhat, then this juice wouldn't be muktzah. Because the halacha is, if you started pressing the grapes, then any juice that flows out on Shabbos is not muktzah, because there's no gzeira of schita. The reason there's no gzeira of schita is, once you started crushing the grape, even if you now take the grape on Shabbos and squeeze out the rest of the juice, it's not schita daraisa. That's only schita darabanan. So we wouldn't make a gzeira anymore. Okay, Tezvav. Ve'ena Rashoi, like this, you can't set up keli number 2 to catch what's leaking from number 1, because you're being mevatel kli mehechanoi. I am Dr. Moshe, shehiskim lasses oid eitza acheres. The Ramon, the Dr. Moshe, gives us another eitza how to save this wine. Dainu sheyita and akeli emayim. Take a barrel with a little water in it, takas adelef, under the flow that's coming out from barrel number 1. Kedei sheyisbat al hayayin b'mayim rishon. What's going to happen is, as the wine drips into the keli that has water in it, it's bottle. Each drop is bottle in the water that's in the keli, and therefore the muktzah is gone. Because of a Magid Avram, Shafil Nisraba Isser L'Basayif, even if at the end you have 10 times more grape juice than you had water, doesn't matter. Shafil Nisraba Isser L'Basayif Shed Yosef Ba'amayim Les Lanba Tiesh Lismaychal Amakilin B'Yeridei Siman Kuf Lamadalad that say that each drop is bottle, one at a time. It's bottle. So you never have a problem with muktzah. So the Rabbah is just telling me, l'chayr, you have a simpler eitzah over here than the eitzah of the mechaber. If the juice is muktzah, then there's nothing needed. If the juice is bottle, the juice is bottle. Forget muktzah. Not being bottle muktzah. Bottle the juice.
It's there.
It's gone. It's bottle.
How can it be gone? It went in.
Bittul. The yuchal nesham kli v'avagav de b'seif siman shel amitches kasav dasal lechatchila lited kli takas delaf to ein oisid graf sharei lechatchila in shil amitches. The Mechaber says you can't make a graf sharei lechatchila. Hachas sharim shebseidik mashakasav shel chesef lamed zayin. Could we go a little bit further? I'll tell you. I'm just a heads up. I'm not going to be here tomorrow night or Thursday night. I have somebody standing in for me the next 2 nights. I have a family chassid tomorrow night. Thursday night, this was planned before I took over the shir. I'm going to Cleveland. I have a son who lives in Cleveland. So I'm going to Cleveland to the weekend. I'm leaving Thursday morning. So I have a stand-in the next 2 nights, but he's starting from Shin Lamed Vav. So I'd like to finish Shin Lamed Hey. Sif Hey. Nispazru loy peiros b'chotzer. Echad heina ve'echad heina. This halach is really nothing much to do with the rest of Shin Lamed Hey. Let's say you had a bag of apples, and your apples poured out in the courtyard. Echad heina ve'echad heina. One apple is there, one apple is there, one apple is there. Malaket ma'at ma'at va'oichel. You can pick up a little bit at a time and eat it. But you cannot go collect your apples and collect your apples into a box or into a bag. We're going to get to that. Believe me, we're going to get to that. There's a 3-way machlokes rishonim what the problem over here is. The Mishnah Berurah is going to go with the Rabbeinu Yaina that holds that this is uvda d'chayil. Uvda d'chayil, if you're out in your courtyard and you're picking up apples and you're piling them up in a box, let's get to it. You're going and you're piling up stuff. It looks like an uvda d'chayil. It looks like you're going and you're collecting apples to box them up and sell them. So it looks like you're being oisik in pragmatia. It looks like you're doing business. So this bazul peres b'chasser akadena v'akadena malakit ma'at ma'at v'oichel v'loyita l'sakasav v'lo l'sakakupa. V'hem naflu b'makam echad. But if they fell in one place, so they're not spread out, they fell right over here. It's a few pieces over here. Then nice and I feel l'sakasav. Then you could pick them up and you could put them into a box, no problem. Now it doesn't look like you're doing an uvda d'chayil, like you're going picking things from all over and assembling them in a box. Unless the stuff that spilled out got into the dirt that's on the ground. Then you have to do one at a time and eat, and you can't collect it in a box. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Let's see if we answer your questions. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cutting your zayin. The Mechaber said the pears fell out and they're spread out, one here, one here, one here. You cannot pick them up and collect them in a box. What could you do? You could pick up a couple at a time and eat them, but you cannot collect them. Echad heina. What's the problem? Dezeh heavy uvda d'chayil. This is an uvda d'chayil. When you're going collecting things and putting them in a box. But if they fell into one isolated area, that's not an uvda d'chayil.
You're saying that the limit is if it looks like it.
Yes.
If it looks like
Yes.
Like you're doing, you're busy, like you said.
Yes.
Busy.
Right.
That's the limit.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Uvda d'chayil. It has to look like you're doing something which is business related. Now I'll give you a heads up. I spoke to Rabbi Goldman today, and I asked him for a geder on this. I asked him what happens if a kid knocks over on Shabbos afternoon, he knocks over a box of taffies, and a box of taffies gets spread out all over the place. So he told me, he said, there's no uvda d'chayil over there. No, the context is missing. The whole context of uvda d'chayil is missing. He said it's in a house, it's in a kitchen. Something spilled in the kitchen. Is uvda l'chayil to go collect it? He said there has to be a context of uvda l'chayil. If it's out in a chutzner and it looks like, and you have boxes, and it looks like you're assembling packages, that's uvda l'chayil. But a kid spilled something, and you go and you're cleaning it up, you're putting it in a thing, that's not uvda l'chayil. So let's kishamalaktan mitach tzroiros va'afruriyos mechzi tamid kovda d'chayil. But if the stuff that spilled out got mixed into the dirt, and now you're picking it out of the dirt, the Mishnah Berurah's lashon is very interesting. Now it automatically always looks like kovda d'chayil. The pshat over here is that over here the mechaber is being machmer like a Ramban. The Ramban on this Gemara in Shabbos says, what's the problem here? The problem is not simply uvda l'chayil. The problem is it's mechzi kebayrer. When you have stuff mixed in with dirt and pebbles, now it looks like you're doing bayrer. Now, we know that bayrer is not a problem if it's biyad, you're using your hand, miyad, you're using it right away, right? And it's oichel mitach psoilus. So really over here, there's no problem as long as what you do is you go ahead, you take it, and you eat it. So it's miyad. But otherwise, otherwise there's a possibility of mechzi kabar. So since it's mechzi kabar, says the mechaber, if it fell into tzroiros va'afruriyos shabakotzer, you're not allowed to go take it out. This would be true even if you want to go ahead and you want to pick it up and you want to put it into kalim, and you want to eat it right away. Still a problem, because it's mechzi. It looks like uvda l'chayil of bayr. See, the achronim use this lashon of uvda l'chayil sometimes, not only the way we usually use uvda l'chayil, which is that it looks like you're doing business. They also use uvda l'chayil when it looks like you're doing a malacha, because a malacha is only mutter b'chayil. It's not mutter on Shabbos. So since the Ramban is saying, since this looks like bayr, it's uvda l'chayil. The Elavach, he typically does it b'shem bayr, because obviously it shouldn't test. Says Ice Cotton Yud Ches.
What's ma'amer?
What?
What's ma'amer?
Oh, you're asking about ma'amer. You're coming from the Rambam. Okay. The Rambam's pshat in this Isser is that the reason you're not allowed to take the fruits, collect them, and put them in a box is a gzera. You might come to take two of the fruits and squeeze them and squish them together. And that would be the Isser of ma'amer. The Rambam learns that the Isser of ma'amer means creating bundles. The Rambam learns that the Isser of ma'amer is to press fruits together so that they get stuck. Imagine a bag of prunes, right? You could have like a clump of prunes. So to take those prunes and squeeze them together would be ma'amer. You have 2 or 3 loose prunes, 2 even, and you squeeze them together, that's ma'amer. So the Rambam says to collect these fruits and put them in a box is a problem of ma'amer. That's the third pshat. So Ice Cut Yud Ches, the Mechaber said, if the fruits got mixed into the dirt and the pebbles, then you could only save them by picking them up one at a time and eating them. You have to eat them. Don't think it's only us to collect them and put them in a box. No, that would be if the only Isser is of the Dechayil. But since we're dealing with the Ramban here, that there's a problem of bayr, the only problem isn't of the Dechayil. So even if you're not putting them in a box, even if you're sticking them in your pocket, which doesn't look like of the Dechayil, still it's a problem because of the bayr problem. Okay, so Mir Hashem, everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos. I'll see you next on Sunday evening.